Are you the guest with a reservation? I need to talk to you for a moment. As I was about to enter the restaurant, a woman dressed as a chef, looking worried, approached me. I wondered what she needed to confirm about my meal. When I listened to her, I was hit with shocking news that made me turn pale. My name is Emily Thompson, 31 years old, and I work in advertising. I work hard to make great ads. It's tough, but I love it. I met my husband, John, through work. He is a year older than me, and we've been married for a year. We both work, so we share the chores and help each other, making our life quite efficient. At first, John and I only talked about work, but over time, we got to know each other better and realized we had similar interests and values. I started to like him and was scared we might not see each other often after our project ended. So, I gathered my courage and told him how I felt. I was very nervous because it was the first time I ever confessed my feelings to someone. He accepted my feelings and we started dating. A year later, he proposed and we got married. Before we married, John told me he had been married before but got divorced. They were together for about a year, had no children, and decided to part ways because they had different values. John seemed to regret his previous marriage, and he was a bit reserved about love. But I understood, and as long as there were no lingering issues, I didn't mind his past. I wanted to live my life with John, so I accepted his past and we got married. Our married life was happy, but slowly, the reality of John's past marriage started to show. After the wedding, we moved to an apartment close to our workplaces. John's parents live nearby, and we get along well. I was initially worried about living so close to my in-laws, but they were always kind to me. John and I hardly have time during the weekdays due to our jobs, but we make the most of our weekends together. We both love eating, but I have an allergy to fruits from the rose family, like strawberries, apples, pears, and peaches. This makes dining out difficult because even a slight touch of these fruits can cause my skin to swell and turn red. I developed this allergy as an adult, and it was surprising and sad because I used to love eating fruits. After a severe reaction to strawberries, I found out about my allergy. This made me cautious about eating out and checking ingredients, which added stress to my life. When John and I were dating, I felt bad for constantly checking ingredients, but I couldn't relax without it. We love cooking together at home, which helped reduce my worries. Fortunately, John was always understanding and supportive. My husband and his parents understand my allergies, which has eased the mental burden I felt after getting married. My mother-in-law, in particular, is very understanding since her father had a severe wheat allergy. Even a little bit of wheat could affect him, and allergies can be dangerous, so they were always very careful. She researched my allergy and ensures that meals are safe for me when we dine at her place or go out. She always says, "You shouldn't have to be scared during meals. I'll make sure everything is safe for you," which almost moved me to tears. I have a great relationship with my in-laws, especially my mother-in-law, who treats me like her own daughter. We often go out together. My husband and his parents are wonderful people, and the concerns I initially had about my allergies have vanished. One day, a project I proposed at work was successful, earning me a promotion. I excitedly shared the news with my family, and they were all thrilled, especially my mother-in-law. While spending time with her, she invited me to celebrate at an upscale restaurant. "That's a very fancy place, isn't it? I can't let you do that." I hesitated. The restaurant was in a luxurious hotel nearby, which I had always dreamed of visiting since my student days. However, it's truly upscale, and I felt it was too extravagant, even for a celebration. "You don't have to hold back. This is such a joyous occasion. Let me treat you," she insisted, genuinely happy about my promotion. Her sentiment warmed my heart, but I had reservations. I remembered visiting the restaurant's website before my allergy developed and dreaming of tasting their fruit-filled tart someday. The restaurant often uses fruits from the rose family, which I'm allergic to. While I appreciated my mother-in-law's kindness, I was hesitant because they frequently use fruits I'm allergic to. Whenever I dined out with my mother-in-law in the past, we informed the restaurant of my allergy beforehand, but each time I felt guilty asking them to accommodate my dietary restrictions. So we often chose restaurants that seldom used the foods I was allergic to. I worried that even if we informed this restaurant about my allergy, it might be challenging to avoid those ingredients completely. It might inconvenience them because of their frequent use of fruits. Of course, dishes without these fruits are safe for me, and I'm tempted to try them. However, considering that the kitchen likely processes these fruits too, the risk scared me. In the end, I decided to decline the offer because of my concerns about an allergic reaction. Still, my mother-in-law was keen on the idea. I'll inform them about the allergy when I make the reservation. Don't worry, I also have a connection there, so they'll take good care of us, she said. I was surprised to hear she had a connection to the restaurant since neither she nor my husband had ever mentioned it. But I figured she probably didn't brag about it. Given my mother-in-law's enthusiasm and my genuine interest in the restaurant's cuisine, we decided to have lunch there together. Since it's a suggestion from my mother-in-law who has always been considerate of my allergies, I felt relieved thinking there was nothing for me to worry about. When I told my husband about this, he was surprised to hear that his mother had connections at the restaurant. My husband also mentioned that the restaurant sometimes serves fruit, and he appreciated their consideration for allergies. When I told my husband that my mother-in-law had informed the restaurant about my allergies during the reservation and that they would take precautions, he seemed relieved. It's a celebration of your promotion, right? Make sure to enjoy yourself, he said with a laugh. Initially, I declined because of my allergies, but I had always admired the restaurant, so I was excited about dining there. On the day I had been eagerly waiting for, since it was a weekday, I took a half day off. After finishing my morning work, I planned to head straight to the restaurant. Being a high-end place, I chose a more formal outfit than usual and paid extra attention to my appearance. When going to work, colleagues noticed my attire and asked about my plans. When I told them about the meal, they wished me a good time before I left the office. Excitedly, I headed to the hotel. As I entered, my mother-in-law was already there. The two of us went to the restaurant on the first floor, and since we had a reservation, we were immediately escorted to our table. Our reservation was for 1:00 p.m., but because of the busy lunchtime, we were informed that the serving might be a bit delayed. It was a popular high-end restaurant, so it was crowded. I understood and decided to order just drinks for the time being and wait patiently. Having already finished work and being encouraged by my mother-in-law, I ordered champagne. We enjoyed our conversation while waiting for our meal. I've had champagne before, but the one I had that day tasted the best. Feeling the effects of the alcohol and the anticipation of dining at a restaurant I had longed for, I was in high spirits. From the dishes at the neighboring tables, I could tell the food looked delicious and I was eagerly awaiting our meal. Suddenly, my phone rang from inside my bag. Realizing I hadn't turned it off, I tried to shut it off but saw the incoming call was from work. I sobered up immediately, worried that there might be a problem. I excused myself from my mother-in-law and stepped out of the restaurant to take the call, ensuring no one was around in case of sensitive information. The call was regarding a document I had submitted earlier that day. My colleague urgently needed clarification. Relieved that it wasn't because of an error on my part, I answered their questions and wrapped up the call in about 5 minutes. As I was about to turn off my phone to enjoy my meal, an unfamiliar woman approached me. She asked, "Excuse me, are you the customer who made a reservation for today's meal at the restaurant?" The woman was dressed as a chef, probably from the restaurant's kitchen. She looked rushed, out of breath, and worried. I wondered why she would come out during such a busy time. Even though I was puzzled, I answered her questions when she said she needed to confirm something. Her face went pale, and she urgently told me to leave the hotel immediately, saying it was dangerous to go back to the restaurant. She insisted that I leave the hotel to ensure my safety. Suspicious of the woman's intense demeanor, I asked for clarification. Once I understood the situation, I felt the blood drain from my face. I quickly got into a taxi waiting in front of the hotel and headed home. That evening, my mother-in-law called. She was furious about me leaving her at the hotel and returning home without saying anything, causing her embarrassment since she had reserved a special meal for us. She yelled, "You had everything set up to celebrate, and you just leave without a word? Don't you know basic manners? What kind of upbringing did you have?" I had always thought of my mother-in-law as kind and gentle, but there was no trace of that now. I believed the kind mother-in-law I knew would be concerned if I left without saying anything, but she was yelling so furiously that I started to believe the rumors about her. As I remained silent, since I received praise at work and was more liked in the neighborhood than her, she arrogantly claimed that even if I spoke out, no one would believe me. If it weren't for this incident, I wouldn't have believed she was capable of such actions. So, I had collected evidence to reveal her true nature and confronted her with it. "Everyone will believe me. My parents and my husband, John, are here listening to everything. Plus, this conversation is being recorded," I asserted. Everyone present had heard her berate me and her intentions to expose me to allergens deliberately. After leaving the restaurant, I immediately went to my parents' house and had John join us. I informed them of the situation and we were discussing our next steps when she called. Swiftly, I switched the call to speaker and started recording it for evidence. As a result, we had her incriminating statements on tape. She was taken aback by my revelation and asked in a shaky voice, "Wait, is John there with you?" She never expected her son to find out and asked in a trembling voice. Her son, who had been silent and emotionless while gathering evidence, spoke up, saying, "I heard everything. I can't believe you do something like this, Mom," in a suppressed, angry tone. She hastily began making excuses. "It wasn't like that. I didn't mean." Her desperate attempt seemed insincere, especially after her earlier outburst. His anger was evident as he shouted not only towards Kate but also towards Emily. "I don't even want to think of you as my mother anymore. We're cutting ties." Given the true nature of the mother he had trusted, John was beyond furious. He then declared his estrangement from her, ignoring her cries. Furthermore, my parents said they would sue her for attempted murder, and John cut off the call, disregarding her voice. Later, when John informed his father about the incident, he was furious and suggested divorce, eventually throwing her out of the house. With no relatives to rely on, no income, and having been a housewife, she clung desperately, pleading and crying. Her husband, feeling a final bit of pity, put her in a basic apartment, paid the first month's rent, and told her to find work to support herself. However, having been a housewife, she seemed to lack the drive to work and, for some reason, clung to both John and me. She barged into our house demanding money, but we drove her away, telling her to earn it herself. Especially John, who was extremely stern, ensured she wouldn't approach our house again. Later, rumors suggested she started working at a nearby supermarket, but she seemed quite disheveled. With her nasty attitude, she had no one to rely on and appeared to be struggling on her own. I hope she continues to work hard, both for her own expenses and to pay us the compensation. I want her to stay out of our lives. As for why she did what she did, it seems she was jealous of me and wanted to see me suffer. John's ex-wife had moved in after graduating from a vocational school and became a housewife. She was submissive, obeyed her mother-in-law, and had a quiet nature. Due to her unpleasant character, which made her disliked by women, she enjoyed bullying those weaker than herself. She used to take out her stress on John's ex-wife. However, I am independent, working and getting promotions. I had a higher social status than her and was well regarded in our neighborhood. Initially, she liked me, thinking I was a competent daughter-in-law, but she gradually grew jealous. Being unable to bully me, she wished I'd be in a position where I'd become incompetent, wanting to look down on me. After the explosive call when John and his father confronted her, she confessed everything, leading to their decision to cut ties with her. Later, John apologized to his ex-wife for not noticing the bullying. At that time, he was new at his job and deeply trusted his mother, which blinded him to her behavior. Still, he felt regretful for not noticing sooner. His ex-wife assured him she was over it. She's dating someone now, and their conversation ended on a peaceful note. John felt relieved knowing she was genuinely happy. Thanks to her help, I became friends with John's ex-wife. She's also career-oriented, and we get along well. Although she's his ex-wife, there's nothing concerning regarding their relationship. I'm glad to have a friend close in age. After settling matters with my mother-in-law, John and his father threw me a promotion party. With their celebration, I felt happy and determined to continue working hard without worrying about my mother-in-law.